Good evening and welcome to Chapter 7 of Black in Business, Herstory, with a focus on creatives in business. I'm Justina Perry, founder and director of BuyBlackNB.
And I'm Rihanna Grace, a volunteer with the New Bedford Historical Society.
I am honored to co-host this Black in Business series and to share space with some business leaders who you'll get to meet tonight. This is our 7th episode, so here's what you can expect for tonight. We'll be meeting some amazing women who are literally making history. Today, we will meet photographer Annasaskhea Azor, artists Allison Wells and Sandra Santos, and the mother-daughter florist duo of Sandra and Torrey Monteiro, and the mother-daughter florist duo of Sharon and Torrey Monteiro, all business owners.
I'm sorry. Then I was like, wait, should I say it faster? Okay. So
let me go back and the mother-daughter florist duo of let me just write it over. Go back a little bit. I'll give it a 5-second pause.
Yep.
Today we will meet photographer Annasaskhea Azor, artists Allison Wells and Sandra Santos, and the mother-daughter florist duo of Sharon and Torrey Monteiro, all business owners here to share with us.
The South Coast art. I skipped a line. Jeez. Our project is inclusive of the South Coast of Massachusetts, which encompasses the cities of New Bedford, Fall River, and their surrounding towns. The South Coast may not be known for having a large Black population. However, historically, there has been a Black presence in New Bedford since the early days, from crews of whale ships before the American Revolution to an important stop on the Underground Railroad. In Frederick Douglass's day, who found refuge in New Bedford from 1837 to 1841, the Black population in New Bedford was more than double that of Boston. New Bedford is the first American city that Cape Verdeans immigrated to. Cape Verdeans are also the first African people to voluntarily emigrate to the United States post-European colonization. This makes our community uniquely important to African, Cape Verdean, and American history. When segregation legally ended in the 1970s, many African Americans patronized businesses outside of their communities, but the reverse was rarely true. Black business districts began dying out along with the jobs and financial stability that they've created.
And today, so many of the historically non-inclusive organizations and companies that were indifferent to investing in our communities are forming diversity and inclusion councils to repair their image. These attempts are distractions from creating true structural and systemic change in economic equity. More often than not, our culture is what draws businesses in for our entertainment, our food, our music, and yet sadly, our own institutions are ignored. We hope that you'll join us and stick around to hear more from some amazing women who are joining to share with us tonight. Tonight, our first guest is a portrait and editorial photographer. Annasaskhea Azor is based in New Bedford, Massachusetts. Her love of photography started in 2016 as just a hobby, but quickly took off. She aims to capture the character of her subjects through a realistic and artistic lens. Her passion has led her to be featured in Vogue Italia, Toyota, Coach, and Aeropostale. I've had the pleasure of working with Annasaskhea for our BuyBlackNB vendor markets, as she was our event photographer, and I highly recommend checking her out. Her company is called Subside. Please join me, Annasaskhea.
Hi.
Hey, girl. How are you?
I'm doing okay. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for joining us and for taking the time out to talk with our guests.
Of course. I'm so excited to be here. And I'm so excited to talk about photography and kind of where I started, where I am now.
Great. You are actually our first photographer speaker that we've had on our series. So I will let you get to it and you can take it away.
Yeah, thank you so much. So As was just announced, my name is Anna. I am a portrait and editorial photographer. I'm based in New Bedford, but I do shoot a lot in Boston and just the surrounding areas. So I started shooting, just to kind of give you a backstory, back in 2016. Um, it was honestly just a hobby. I feel like I've always been kind of a creative being. I wrote a lot of books when I was younger. I would paint a lot. I would draw a lot. I started a couple of like mini businesses where I would sell like bookmarks and just like sell my art. So I feel like I've always been creative, but I kind of finally found my niche and where I belong back in 2016. So when I bought my first camera, honestly, just on a whim, just to shoot with some friends, just to take photos of friends as we went on some fun adventures, but quickly fell in love with it. So I started shooting, yeah, back in 2016. And I feel like portraits have always just been my niche in my area. I never really ventured off and did like architectural photography or landscape. I've only really ever shot like portraits and families and things of that nature. Um, so yeah, I started shooting some friends and it quickly took off. I think after 1 or 2 months of shooting around and just kind of posting my work on my Instagram page, people started to message me asking to book shoots. And that for me was so fun. I That was so fun. It was cool because I just got to meet so many awesome and dope creatives based in New Bedford. We would meet up for our sessions and we'd end up talking for 1 to 2 hours after that, which really kind of expanded my look on photography, and just like my viewpoint on it. Just meeting a lot of other creatives, getting to spend time with them, and shooting with them as well. So yeah, I started shooting in 2016, and I think around the mark of 2017 is where I started getting really serious about my business, and is when I trademarked myself as subside.co. Um, so yeah, through that, and I think within that year, I ended up shooting for a magazine, which was super fun. They had reached out to me and had asked me to essentially shoot some merch for them and to shoot for one of their editions. So that was like a super fun experience. I got to learn so much within that, and through that same year, I started working with a couple of local bloggers as well, which was also really fun. And then a majority of the shoots I did was honestly with my friends. Um, but yeah, and so from there, it kind of took off. I started to really refine my business and learn the business side of photography. I feel like a lot of times what we see on photography and what is kind of presented to us is the final product. So a lot of what we see is like that final beautiful image, but there's so much that goes within the backwork of it and within the backlog of it. So I learned a lot about how to market myself, how to write an invoice, how to put together a contract, how to communicate with clients, keeping up with clients, things of that nature, which was really just like that business aspect. And then regarding the creative aspect, I learned a lot about honestly planning shoots and just like the time that goes into a shoot. So I learned how to mood board for shoots, how to put together locations, how to keep different locations in mind. I learned how to work with other creatives as well, which is a really big part of photography. There are a couple of stylists and then makeup artists that I always kind of kept in the reservoir, that I was always able to contact. Hey, like I'm putting together the shoot, would love for you to style. I feel like that was really fun as well. I feel like that year was really when my business started to take off, and then people started to take me seriously, which is so awesome. Um, but yeah, I there's one thing that I know that I wanted to touch base on, and that really is the community of photography and just kind of what plays into that. So I know, as I mentioned before, I mentioned working with different stylists and different makeup artists. Um, Year 2017, 2018 is really when I kind of started to step into that. And I've loved it ever since through photography. It's so cool because there's just so many awesome creative people that you're able to meet. So there are a couple of stylists that are really my go-tos, and um, it's so cool because I just love to see the way that they think and the way that they can bring an idea to life, and the way that they can style clothes and the way that they can put together a location and just really kind of um, finalize the image of what I see in my head. So it's so cool to be able to work with them and see my images and my thought process really come to life. And same thing with different makeup artists and hairstylists as well. A lot of times you really do need that finalized makeup look to really bring the shoot together, to really just bring it up to that next level. So I'm so thankful that I've been able to work with so many amazing local people to really just do that as well. But yeah, so through photography, I have been able to work with a couple of big brands, as was previously mentioned, which has been amazing in and of itself. Some of those brands has been Vogue Italia, Toyota, Bosco's based out of Providence, Coach, and Aeropostale. And I'm so, so blessed. It still doesn't feel real that this young girl from New Bedford has had the opportunity to work with all these brands and has had the opportunity to be in contact with these brands, but truly so blessed for it and about it. And shooting in that nature and shooting in that capacity as well is just such an experience, truly. It's so different from anything I've ever done. Because when you're working with those bigger brands, there's a lot more that goes into it, especially on the business side of things. So for some of these shoots, we're planning it for 3 to 4 months, and there's daily communication between me and the brand, really piecing together what their vision is, and just helping them achieve that. So yeah, that has been just such an amazing part of my photography journey. I've definitely learned a lot about that. And that in and of itself has grown me in my photography and just learning how to work with different people, learning how to shoot. A lot of times through these shoots, there are a lot of things that I'm learning how to do. So recently there was a shoot that I did for a brand, for an iced tea brand, and their look and what they wanted didn't necessarily fit with what I normally produce. So it's really cool because you get to spend a lot of time just like researching their brand, researching their vision, and just researching what presets may apply or what shooting styles may apply or what lighting scenarios may apply to that brand to really kind of give them their finalized cohesive look. So even just through these different brand works as well, I've been able to learn so much about photography. It's definitely an ever-changing field, and it's something that I'll always be learning through and growing with. It's definitely not a field where you reach your limit and you're done learning. You know, it's definitely something that every day I'm learning something new, I'm growing in a new way. And I think that's honestly what I love about it. It's just such a lively field. You know, you never know what you're gonna get, you never know what clients you're gonna shoot with. And just putting together those mood boards and seeing the finalized piece, it's really cool seeing your thought process truly come to life. And I think that's honestly what I love so much about photography. So yeah, that's a lot about me. That's a lot about where I've come from. And in the season that I'm in now, I just kind of want to quickly touch base. I do now work out of a studio based in New Bedford. So grateful and so thankful to be able to say that. I've been at my studio now, I call it HQ, our headquarters, for over a year now. And it's so cool just transforming the space and seeing it come to life. I have a couple of other studio mates as well. So it's so awesome being able to kind of put our heads together and find out how we can make our studio better, what different lighting things we need, different color backdrops, and things of that nature. So yeah, I am based in New Bedford. If you do want to find me on Instagram, my Instagram is at subside.co. My website is also www.subside.com as well. Thank you.
All right, you heard it here. We have the rising star, Anna, with us tonight, and it's so cool to hear about your journey, and I think all the network that you're building, and just all of your talent and how you're sharing it with us locally. We really appreciate that. Yes, and I wanted to congratulate you on your recent degree that you achieved college graduation. And I believe you said it was a local, you went to UMass Dartmouth, right?
Yes, I went to UMass Dartmouth.
Congratulations. Wanted to ask about any resources that you were able to tap into or not at your alma mater, ways that they may be supporting entrepreneurs, any business clubs or photography support that you found there, and how you were able to kind of balance working and your studies.
Yeah, so I graduated from UMass Dartmouth. I graduated amidst a pandemic, which was a thing in and of itself. But I'm so thankful that that is my alma mater. I will say a majority of my focus while I was there and a majority of my focus on my studies was in the crime and justice field. So a lot of what I have learned through photography has been self-taught. Praise God for YouTube University. So yeah, a majority of what I've learned has been self-taught, has been through YouTube, but then also through some of the other creatives in this area. So there are a couple of photographers that kind of took me under their wing right when I first started shooting. And we have community shoots where we'd both go out, we'd shoot the same model, and it was really cool because I was able to learn from them, shadow them, and see and grow in that way. So a majority of what I have learned has been self-taught or has been through other photographers within the likeness.
That's amazing. I didn't know that you were self-taught. So thanks for telling us about that. And you mentioned about having that mentorship as you're growing with your skill set. I was wondering about any like competition within local photography. Is that it doesn't really sound like that's what's happening. I mean, but have you experienced that at all as you're building your brand?
Yeah, so I will say that I'm super thankful to be in such a creative city. New Bedford in and of itself is so artsy. And I feel like a lot of times people look out to Boston to look for creatives, but New Bedford, we just house so many amazing and awesome creatives here.
True.
So many. So that being said, I don't know that I feel that there really is a competitive nature, at least based within New Bedford. I feel like there's enough work to go around. You know, there's always someone that will need a family session or a maternity session. There are a lot of creatives here as well. A lot of people who are within the music industry or who are working on becoming influencers. So I feel like because there are so many of us creatives, there's honestly a lot of work to go around. That being said, I will say that a lot of the photographers based here as well all have really unique styles. So my style, a lot of people think it's more of like a modern and clean cut style, whereas there are some other photographers that have a bit more of like a moody feel or like a vintage feel, some other photographers that strictly shoot film. So I think because all of our work is so unique in and of itself that there's always a need for our specific type of photography. So I don't think it's too competitive, at least not that I've seen.
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
Because yeah, we're all so different that, you know, there's always a photographer or a creative that can fulfill that need.
Yeah, and you have your own style that you're known for now.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the studio shoots, so I did want to announce that we will be choosing a winner for your giveaway. So very generous offer from Subside, a 45-minute studio mini. If you are following BuyBlackNB and you have shared the Herstory post for tonight's Herstory event, you will be entered to win a studio mini. So I hope that everybody has entered to win if you're watching tonight, and we'll be announcing the winner soon. So yeah, thank you so much for taking the time for sharing with us tonight. And we are so excited to have you as part of our series. Thank you, Anna.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for having me. This is so fun. And I love speaking with you.
Oh, thank you. And at this time, I will welcome back Brianna to introduce our next guest.
Thanks, Justina. Up now, we have Allison Wells, one of my personal friends and one of my favorite artists. Originally from Trinidad and Tobago, Allison Wells relocated from the Caribbean to the south coast of Massachusetts in 2004. She pursued a master's degree in fine art painting at the University of Massachusetts, Dartmouth. She now lives and works as a full-time artist and art educator in New Bedford, Massachusetts, and is the owner of Allison Wells Fine Art Studio and Gallery on 106 William Street in New Bedford. Wells also teaches private and group art classes and workshops from her studio to kids, teens, and adults. Allison's paintings have been exhibited in galleries and museums internationally. In 2010, she was selected to exhibit her urban organic series at the World Exposition in Shanghai, China. Allison's paintings are part of private, public, and corporate collections. Her most recent local public commissions were for the Boston Children's Hospital in Boston, Massachusetts, the Boston Children's Hospital in Dartmouth, Massachusetts, and St. Luke's Hospital, the pediatric ward in New Bedford, Massachusetts. Wells' most recent solo exhibition, titled In the Neighborhood, is currently on view at the New Bedford Whaling Museum in New Bedford until November 28th. Allison, I'd love to welcome you and hear your story. Thank you so much for your time and joining us, and we're really excited to hear more about you. I know that personally, I've worked with Allison through volunteering with the Historical Society and also have done private classes with her for part of my bachelorette celebration and other really fun things. So Allison, welcome. We're so excited to have you.
Hello, hi.
Yeah,
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. We'd love to hear your story.
Okay, so my story, as you heard, I'm from Trinidad and Tobago. And my story is I've always wanted to be an artist. And I used to tell my dad when I was a little girl that I was going to open an art gallery in Paris. So that's always a big joke. But I always tell people, okay, I'm not in Paris, but I consider New Bedford the Paris of New England. And so I grew up with a very creative family. All my sisters, I have 4 older sisters, they were all in the arts. My parents were creative, and it was always encouraged. But in my school, I went to a very academic school. I loved my high school, but I had a teacher who, embarrassed me in front of the whole class and told me that I was going to starve if I became an artist. And I remember at that point, that was the first time. I was 13 years old, and that was the very first time that I heard something negative about my dream of being an artist. It was the very first time. And sadly, it was not the last time. And so that was something I would constantly hear. And I would always hear in my mind her tell me, you're going to starve, you're going to starve. So for a long period, I always tried to not be an artist. So I was moving along life, making decisions, saying, nope, I'm not going to be an artist. No, I'm not going to art school. Nope, no. But the way life happens, and it's an amazing thing, sometimes you are guided. And I definitely believe this was my path because I wholeheartedly tried not to be an artist. And I was guided back every single time, and so it kept showing up in my life. I said I wasn't going to go to art school. I went to art school. I got a scholarship to go to art school. I actually started 1 year in architecture school and hated it. And the next year, I was given a full-time scholarship to an art school. And this was a scholarship that I applied for the year before. So it's just so weird, I can't even question it. It's like, well, how come I got it a year after? How come they didn't call me when I applied for it? I didn't ask any questions. This is what I was supposed to do. Boom, I did it. But then when I started to become an artist and move on in that direction, the fear keeps coming back in your head. My teacher's voice, you're going to starve, keeps coming back in my head. So I would always pull back or go another direction and then get led back there. So at this stage of my life, I just see the signs and I keep going and I trust them. And so, fast forward to that, I go to art school. I end up teaching in Trinidad in my country at high school. And I realized that is a job I love so much. And so I decided to do my master's, and that's what brought me to New Bedford, Massachusetts. And so, because I wanted to be able to teach. So I wanted to be able to teach at the college level and continue being an artist. And, you know, in art school, the kind of direction that we go in is the way of the art establishment. And, you know, so my whole idea was teaching full-time at the college level and showing at galleries, museums, and all of that. I never thought of owning a gallery. I never thought of being a business. You know, I'm thinking of in terms of art school, you think as an art career. And people would say, yes, I do have an art career, but I also have a business. And that is a big thing that I've learned as I started this business, that I had to put on 2 hats, and I'm now a business person. But the great thing was that I think that was so important for me to do, because I can see it from another side. And it is important to see it as a business. You know, people go through the art establishment route, and that's fine. But I realized that that was not for me. I love being an entrepreneur. My mother was an entrepreneur, and she really guided me. I watched her in all the things that she did. I was right there helping her. She started her own plants business, growing plants. And that was just from a love of what she loved to do. She loved having plants, growing plants, and her business boomed. I remember when she just started, and she used to do small little plant sales in our garage, and she would decorate it and make it so lovely. I would make little cards. I would make handmade cards, and I would sell them. And it's only later, after I had the gallery, that she told me, you know, but you had that skill from way back, that entrepreneurial skill. So this is a direction my life has taken me, and I've been so grateful for it. So I really see myself as an entrepreneur. I'm an artist and an art educator. And so all of that goes together. And I'm just really interested in where this takes me. I still teach. When I left UMass, I was teaching at BCC, Bristol Community College, for 9 years. So I taught at the college level for quite a few years, and I loved it. And when I opened the space, my teaching started to develop more in this space. So I do private lessons and group workshops, etc. And so I love the way things branched off. And at this stage, I'm just open to see where it goes. I'm creative. I'll always be painting. I will always be teaching. And that's really, in a nutshell, what happened when I came here. Also, I want to say, when I came here, it's so funny. I came to do 3 years at UMass Dartmouth for my grad work in fine art painting. And I told everybody, you know, that I'm going to do 3 years and 2, because they allow you to do the program in 2 years. 3-year program, 2, and get out of here. And so I have to say, 17 years later, I am still here. You know, there's something very special about New Bedford. And also that New Bedford is home to so many artists. We have such a large community of artists. And I remember feeling that, oh, I want to be part of this community. So many things were happening at the time when I was at UMass. I was seeing other students staying. Before, you would see students go get their degree and leave, go back where they come from, other states, other countries. But a lot of students at that time were staying. They were renting affordable studios. They were being part of collaborations and lots of stuff. And I loved what was happening in the city. And so that's what brought me here. And that's a little bit of my story.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Allison. I love that you came here and stayed here. We're so happy to have you as part of your community. And I loved what you shared about how you started as thinking, well, I'm an artist, and you became an entrepreneur. And I know for anyone who follows Allison on social media, she always does some really fun TikToks and reels about small business owners, how you're the marketer, communications, operations, packaging, everything that comes along, as well as the taxes and accounting and everything that goes into one, being a small business owner. So we really appreciate all you do in our community, and especially in bringing such vibrancy to the art scene in New Bedford. So I have just a couple of questions for you. My first one is, what inspires you? And are there ever times that maybe you're not feeling inspired to create art? And if that's the case, what do you do? Like, how do you get to a different point?
What inspires me is everyday life, living, seeing things, meeting people, just living life. Also, what inspires me, and I just spoke about it, is being around other artists, other creative people in creative communities. And this is what I have here in New Bedford, which is amazing. When I moved here, it was the first time I was in a place that had so many artists all at once. We're all inspiring each other. I love brainstorming and all of that. And so that's really what inspires me. When I don't feel inspired, it's usually because I've had like a big launch or a big exhibition opening, or I've been working to something really creative. And when that happens, then, it's just like an empty vessel, and I'm not inspired after that. But I don't see it as a bad thing. I see it as, you fill the vessel and then you empty the vessel. And when the vessel is empty, you allow it, to then fill up, on its own. I remember Picasso would always say, I don't have the exact words, but he would always say, he would go into his studio for a few months and nobody would see him. He'd lock himself in and just work, and empty his vessel. And then he would come out, and for the rest of the year, he may not work again, because he's living life. He's, eating fine foods and meeting new people. And that's how I see it. And sometimes after a big thing, a big show, I just take some time off, and that is it. And so that's how I recharge my batteries, and I wait till my vessel is full again to let it out. And another way also, and this is something I did during the shutdown last year, was my sketchbook, my journals. And so that is something that always sparks in me. If I'm feeling a little like, I'm not feeling to work big or to, I just work in my sketchbook every day, or, even a few times a week, or it just makes my heart sing, because I'm not taking myself seriously, and I'm exploring things. Maybe I'm using materials I never used before, and it's not any right or wrong, and nobody has to see it. And so that's what I do.
I think that's such a great tip. And in one of the episodes a few months back, we were talking about self-care for business owners and how you need to refill your vessel. Sometimes you can't just be going all the time. And it's hard as a small business owner who maybe doesn't have other staff or is trying to juggle so many roles at once, but you need to allow yourself to refill and take those breaks. And so having a sketchbook or some other outlet, I think that's such a great piece of advice that can be applied across genres, not just for artists, but for really anyone, but especially for small business owners, even if they're in a different field. So thank you for that. And my next question is, for anyone who is watching who might be an artist and maybe it's just their side gig, something that they do in their spare time, but they want to make the leap to being a full-time artist. Do you have any advice or any pieces of wisdom to share for people looking to make that transition?
Yes. So you must really, really want it. And it must be, something you really care deeply for, because it's not going to be easy. And so during those hard times, you're going to have to just push through. One of the main things I learned since I've opened my business is relationships. I say this all the time. Relationships to me are like the biggest thing in business. Back in older models of business, like in the 80s and 90s, it was hard sell. And I'm realizing that is not it at all. And I have developed so many relationships with customers and collectors that, some of them have become my good friends, some of them, and it's just like, because you're talking about the work, you're going beyond just the thing. And I realized that in business, there's always competition. There's always tons of people doing similar things to you, or better than you, or less than you, whatever it is. But what makes that person come and purchase from you, or take the class from you, or do the course with you? You know, it is you. So it's something about you and the relationship they have with you that will miss. So to me, I learned that, you know, not that long ago. Like, you know, I've had my business for 7 years, but I've been, you know, an artist and all of that practicing before that. So I've been a practicing artist for 20 years, but in the 7 years of having this, you know, brick and mortar storefront business, I've learned that. And that I think is very valuable. And that's what I would pass on to others about that. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you. And so my last question is, if anyone wants to get in touch with you, either visiting your gallery, signing up for a class, or even commissioning a piece, how can they find you?
AllisonWells.com. Allison is spelled with 1 L. So that's my website. On social media, I'm Allison Wells Art. For all the social media across the board, Allison Wells Art. My gallery is in 106 William Street in historic downtown New Bedford, on the cobble street roads of New Bedford. And it's called Allison Wells Fine Art Studio and Gallery. So please come and visit me. I'm right here at my gallery tonight. No, don't come and visit me tonight, but here in my gallery space. I tell people it's my happy space. You know, I have my studio in the back, my gallery in the front, and I just love being here. I love talking about art. And so, yes, so that's how you can reach me, AllisonWells.com or Allison Wells Art.
Wonderful. And I know I shared in your bio, but be sure to check out Allison Wells' exhibit at the New Bedford Whaling Museum through the end of November in the neighborhood. It's beautiful, really inspiring. And I know the pieces definitely resonated with me, and I'm sure anyone who's watching, who checks it out will feel the same way. So really check that out, visit her gallery, check out her social media for her funny reels and TikToks. Thank you so much, Allison, for your time. It was really lovely to hear from you as always.
Thank you. Thank you.
And we're gonna pass it back to Justina.
Bye.
Thank you, Rayana and Allison, for that awesome interview. Coming to the virtual stage, next we have Sandra Santos. She grew up in New Bedford, where she now lives. She received her Bachelor of Arts degree from the University of District of Columbia in Washington, D.C., and a Master's of Art Education from UMass Dartmouth. Sandra job shopped for Lehigh Design and was a one-woman art department and taught visual design at New Bedford Vogue for 19 years. She's also taught an after-school program at Lincoln School, a summer program provided by the New Bedford Art Museum, the Art Mobile, and also gave free art lessons in Stoughton, Mass. She now enjoys working in her studio, painting, weaving, and creating fabric. Please join me in welcoming Sandra Santos. Hi, Sandra. Thank you so much for being here this evening.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, this is going to be a treat. Everybody stay tuned. And Sandra, I'm going to give this stage over to you.
All righty. Thank you. My name is Sandra Santos. I was born in Cambridge, Mass, but I grew up in New Bedford, Mass. After high school, I moved to Boston and started working for the telephone company as an operator. After a while, I decided I wanted to relocate. So I moved to Washington, D.C., where I started working for the telephone company again in Washington, D.C. as an operator, but got promoted to a junior supervisor. While I was there, I decided I wanted to go back to school. So I enrolled in the University of the District of Columbia in their art program. My program was studio art with a minor in advertising design. While I was at the school, I also joined the National Conference of Artists. I think it's one of the oldest African-American arts community There I met a lot of accomplished and interesting artists. My last year of school, I decided to quit the telephone company, and I got a job working with the DC Commission on the Arts. I worked on their brochure. After that, I worked at the mayor's office. These two programs were government paid programs. After I graduated, I got a job in an advertising department. The store was called Woodward and Lothrop's. It was like Nordstrom's. And I started out in the advertising department. But being a new person, you had to start up with paste up. I would paste up the ads. I just hated paste up. I wanted to design. So I decided to come back to Massachusetts. I was missing family, ocean. So I came back to Massachusetts. When I came back to Massachusetts, I started working at Lehigh Design, and they called it job shop, and they would send me to different companies like General Dynamics, and I would cover the person who was either going on vacation or sick leave and do their jobs. Most of it was illustration. But when I was working, the money was great. But when I wasn't working, no money was coming in. So I decided I need to find another job. So I started working for IoT in Hyannis. They were a fiber optics company, and I was their one-woman art department. But after a couple of years, they relocated. So I moved back to New Bedford and had to find another job. So I started subbing at New Bedford Vogue, and then I got hired to teach visual design. At the school, I taught 9, 10, 11, and 12th graders. It consisted of computer graphics, photography, drawing, layout, all aspects of the arts. While I was working at Vogue, I decided I wanted to go back to school. So I enrolled at UMass Dartmouth. I started out in their fine arts program, but then I switched over to art education, and I received my Master of Arts Education there. I worked at Greater New Bedford Vogue until 2007. I retired. And while I was working at Vogue, I also did some after school programs. One was at Lincoln School. I did a summer program for the New Bedford Art Museum, the Artmobile. And then when I was working on my master's degree, I gave free art lessons for 4 months with students in Stoughton. I rented studio space, and so we did that for 4 months. I retired from Vogue in 2007, and I started taking painting and weaving classes at UMass Dartmouth. I enjoyed the weaving, and I took classes at Festuga. It's a weaving class in Western Mass, and I've taken a couple of weaving classes. Last November, during the pandemic, I decided I wanted to get a studio. So I got a studio at Hatch Street, where I paint, weave, work on my fabric paintings. And then right now, the community artists in residence at the New Bedford Art Museum.
Thank you so much for sharing that story with us.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yes, I learned so much about your journey, and I'm wondering, you left off telling us about the community artist in residency. How did that come about, and I believe you've just finished it now, as this is airing in the fall. How was that experience, and how did that come up for you?
Well, I was nominated by the New Bedford Historical Society. I think Carl Cruz was the person who mentioned my name. So I had to sign a contract with the museum, and we hung the exhibit. I have an exhibit there up until the 31st of October. It was supposed to be the 27th, but I got COVID, so it's another week. It's there until October 31st. So we hung the exhibit on the 11th, and then the next week, I started working. I go in on Wednesdays from 11 o'clock to 4 o'clock, and I work on my projects. I'm almost finished with the second project. The first project was a woven wall hanging, and I got the inspiration from looking at a African textile piece. So I got the colors. So I finished that, and now I'm working on a fabric, what I call a fabric painting, and that's kind of in process. It's almost done, and then I might start something else for the next couple of weeks. But I learned how to make better videos and how to send large videos, which I didn't know before. So I'm learning a little bit more of the technical stuff.
As part of the residency, that's something that you're learning?
Yes.
Okay, well, that's...
Oh, because I forgot to say on, I work on Wednesdays, but on Fridays, either photos or videos are sent to the media person, and then she posts it on the New Bedford Art Museum's, website.
I see. Okay, so our listeners, our viewers should tune into the New Bedford Art Museum website to see some of your work and
yes, one week we had like question and answers. People sent in questions and I had to answer it. So there's different things each week.
Oh, okay. That's great to know about. For other artists in the community who or people who may want to nominate other artists. So and where can people find your work? You mentioned Hatch Street Studios. How can people connect with you, buy from you, see your work?
Well, I'm at 90 Hatch Street in 204, the second floor, not the big building, the smaller building, 204 on the second floor. And they can reach me. Usually I'm there from 11 to 5, Monday through Friday. And they can reach me by calling 508-3456-510. And if they want to see my work, they can go to the New Bedford Art Museum until the 31st of October and see the exhibit, or just come to my studio.
Okay, that's wonderful. And are you teaching anymore? Is that you have a long teaching history and the masters of art? I'm wondering if that's something you're still doing.
No. People ask me if
officially retired,
if I'm going to teach and whatever, but I think right now I just want to work on whatever I want to work on.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's so exciting. I'm so glad you were able to join us as part of the series. And I hope that I'm sure that your story will inspire others. So thank you for being here with us.
Thank you. And I just want to say you are doing a fantastic job.
Thank you.
God bless you.
That means a lot. All right. So we will now be welcoming back Rayana.
Thanks again, Justina. I'd like to welcome our next guests, Sharon and Torrey Monteiro. Sharon Monteiro is the owner of Always in Bloom Flower and Gift Shop. She is a master florist with over 40 years of experience. Always in Bloom Flower and Gift Shop is a premier florist and has the most extensive assortment of unique and beautiful flowers and plants in the South Coast. She is joined by her daughter, Torrey Monteiro, who recently joined her team. Together, they specialize in weddings, special events, and grad installations. Always in Bloom has been serving their community over the years and would love to serve you. They're located in Marion, Massachusetts, right off of Route 6. Sharon and Torrey, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, no, it's our pleasure. We would love to hear more about your story and about Always in Bloom.
Well, it started actually, I was in the 7th grade and we were to take a test, a career test. Always wanted to be a social worker. That came up number 1. Number 2 came up floral design. Well, I remember chuckling with my mom saying, there's no way, I know nothing about the flower industry. Well, as years passed and I went through high school, I quit in my senior year of high school and I needed a job. Down the street from my dad's house was a flower shop. I walked in there and asked if they were hiring. And they asked if I designed. I said no. She in turn asked if I was willing to learn. I said, sure. So I went through about 3 to 6 months of in and out, giving up, saying I couldn't do it. It was frustrating. I liked being creative, but I didn't know the mechanics of it. Well, soon after that, I ended up being hired and lasted with her for about 10 years. She then decided to relocate and give up the business and asked me if I would like to own it. But of course, being 26, raising my young family, making a pretty decent living, I opted out of that. So from there, I stayed on, managed the new flower shop for a while. They then relocated. Then I was kind of off into the South Coast, wandering from flower shop to flower shop. Really loved what I did. Did things at home, did small open houses, sold wreaths and trees on the side of the road. I did whatever I could to expand my creativity as well as my clients. Fast forward about 30 years later, one of my clients said, hey, Sharon, let's open up a shop. I was like, no way, been there, done that, opened up for other people. She's like, no, I want to make you a partner. At the time, I was like, I have no money. I have great clients and I have, good skill. She's like, fine, let's do it. We went ahead on October 9th, 2009, found this beautiful place, a small cape. And she's like, let's do it. You'll become a partner. We'll have a 5-year business. Great. Okay, so the juices were flowing. I had this huge house to fill. The money was there, bringing in different inventory, local artisans. I knew that if I was going to own a flower shop, excuse me, I didn't want to be like any other flower shop. I wanted to be distinctively different, every piece uniquely designed and one of a kind. Moving into the business, probably about 9 or 10 months, my partner just couldn't do it anymore. This wasn't for her. So I offered, I said, okay, give me the 5 years to buy you out. So it's quite interesting. I can remember being so nervous. I had this huge building, 4 showrooms, didn't have very much money, and I had to get creative. I had to get creative to fill my store and to bring that dream alive. I ended up bringing in local artisans probably twice a year, called it a customer appreciation, a Christmas open house. And I would have different vendors, new artisans come in with their jewelry, with hand-painted silk scarves, new restaurants, whatever was new in the area, I knew my place could house them and we could have a party. One thing I do know how to do is give a good party. So that went on probably for about 6 years. Everyone looked forward to it. They came in, we packed the house, and we did really well. So well that eventually I was able to fill every single room without inviting local artisans because everything was now mine. I don't know where I got the skill to market and to bring that into my creativity, but it worked. So here I am going into my 13th year, proudly to say that, I own everything. Everything is distinctively different. It was a lot At first, because I was the creative part of it. Knew nothing about behind the desk, knew nothing about the taxes, the unemployment, the payroll, everything, the computer, totally illiterate. So I was stuck frozen quite a few times. And you know what, by the grace of God, I say, and have strong faith, he brought me through every single time. So here we are into our 13th year. I have been honored to grace some of the finest homes on South Coast, whether it's decorating full Christmas decor or gracing the homes for house tours. I do a lot with Tabor Academy, Catanza, a lot of gated communities, tons of weddings. This last summer, we did over 30 weddings. It's grown me to be a businesswoman, which I never, ever expected. I questioned myself, and now I see, wow, I learned, I was determined. I learned, and here I am, and proudly to say, my daughter, Torrey, which I never knew had any inkling of anything that I was doing, was kind of forced to come to me after COVID. She was going away to Temple, and there was no way she could go once COVID hit. So I said, oh, come to work for me, and you know, you can be behind the desk, behind the scenes, whatever. She begged me to get on the bench to design, and I was like, Torrey, you need years of experience. Beknownst to me, her first 2 weeks on the bench, she was selling her product. Made me very, very proud. To this day, now she manages and does a lot of the designs, the installations for weddings, everything in the floral industry. She's brought a lot of great strengths and has opened me up to the computer industry, which I'm learning a lot more about, marketing, just a whole lot of information that all I was doing was shooting from the hip. So she's elevated me in the business world, and I'm very thankful for that. And we're looking forward to a great season. We had a great last year season, and we're looking forward to what's to come.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that story. I think it's so cool that you just kind of fell into the field and then had this opportunity to take over, and you just skyrocketed from there. And I'm sure challenges and things came along the way, but so successful. I've purchased your flowers many times.
Thank you.
Yeah. I work right up the street from where you're located, and I had bought a beautiful hanging plant this summer. And my husband, when you did the Buy Black pop-up, he went to buy flowers, and he's like, I wasn't even running that late and they were already selling out. He's like, everyone wanted what they were offering.
Great, thanks. That was a great opportunity. That was wonderful.
Yeah, we were so happy to have you. So thanks again. And I just have a couple questions for both of you. We'd love to hear both of your perspective. When it comes to advertising, I know you kind of touched on how Torrey's been helping with that as well. How do you advertise for Always in Bloom to stand out from other florists in this field and in this area?
Well, I think that what my mother was talking about beforehand, as she was talking about how she did her open house and had a customer appreciation, all of her products that she sells and the brand that she sells, Always in Bloom, is a conversation piece. Everybody in our community knows that, oh, this is an annual thing. We're gonna market this, and it's an ongoing conversation. It's always in the back of our heads, as in our customers' heads. We always talk about it, and they're always excited for it. So I think that's the main thing, because anybody can sell beautiful flowers, because flowers sell themselves. You don't really need to put anything else with it. But what makes Always in Bloom so unique and so distinct is a conversation around it. The flowers that we're selling are so unique because they're custom and they're personalized to your needs. The gifts and the giftware are selected and picked out for our customers and our clientele. And everything's always a conversation about it. So when our clients go home or when they walk out the door, they know, oh, in a few weeks, Always in Bloom is having an open house or whatever the case may be.
Sure. Also, as far as marketing, once I got into owning my own business, I was like, doggone, advertisement is expensive. They
Oh,
want
yeah.
$6, they want $1,500. I
Mhm.
just didn't have it. So what I would do is, as soon as a new salon opened or a restaurant would open, a bookstore, any new stores in my location, I'll say the 5 towns, especially the Tri-Town, because that's where I'm home based, I would consistently send for 6 weeks. I'd make a list of the new businesses or the people that I would like to have as a clientele, and where there was heavy foot traffic. Sisters in Mattapoisett, for example. For 6 weeks, I marketed, and I can always hear a voice on my shoulder, always give you your best. Never mind what you're going to check out, give your best. So for 6 weeks, any new business, I would market them, and we would bring a nice floral arrangement, sit on their desk with a card, go back in 2 weeks, pick it up, and bring another one. And we did this, and we still do it. We've done this ever since I opened in order to get my name out. That's how I built Always in Bloom. I didn't do much advertising at all, and it was word of mouth. And I always say, remember, when you get something for free and it's nice, they come back. And that's really how I built it. I never did the Standard Times. I never did the marketing on the computer. I just learned to get on the Instagram and the Facebook, and it works. But still to this day, I just have 6 new stores that I'm going to market and give them my best. And I have to say 80% of my clients, well, maybe not 80%, but a good amount of my clients, my new clients, that's how I got them.
Wow.
Plus being in Marion, being here for 40 years in the flower industry, I did the grandparents or the great-grandparents before. So now I'm doing the grandchildren and the great-grandchildren. I do their homes, the weddings, bar mitzvahs, sweet teens, all of the above.
Wow.
So that was my marketing strategy. You know, when you got to do it and you got to make it work, you do what you got to do, you know? So I'm very proud of that.
It's wonderful. And clearly your products speak for themselves. Like you said, if it's on someone's table or a welcome reception desk and their clients are coming in and seeing that, or their customers are seeing that, it's like so eye-catching, and it really leaves an impression on them.
That's it. That's it. For sure.
Great. And so my other question is, for any potential entrepreneurs, especially Black women who may be watching and might be on the fence of starting their own business or making that plunge into entrepreneurship, do you have any words of advice?
One thing I will say is it is hard work. And when you think, okay, this is easy, a small boutique or this and that, it's 7 days a week. And I think that's why I was so surprised when Torrey came in. She said probably about 3 or 4 months, Mom, now I know why you came home and you were so tired. Yes, a flower shop is just not tiptoeing through the tulips. Let me tell you, it's work, and everybody comes in for, I always wanted to work in a flower shop, and I'm like, it's hard work. You're hauling, you're processing. And when you have a large store like this, any business, the paperwork, keeping up with your product, keeping up what's new, and you want to be different. You want to give something nobody else has. I always said, I want them to have me, you know, and you need to find something unique about your store. My corny little catchphrases on my invitations. It's the little things. It's the little things. And Torrey had some good points as well, as far as Black women.
I would say definitely, and my mom's a testament to it, is just sticking with it and pushing through whatever the challenges with businesses come with. I mean, it's hard, especially from the ground up, and especially in her case where she wasn't necessarily looking to be a business owner. She was looking to be a florist and loved her creativity. Yeah, I would definitely say stick with it, and it's definitely an inspiration to younger Black women. Our family specifically has many Black women entrepreneurs, and I didn't think anything but owning my own business because of that. So the importance of sticking with it, watching her go through it, and being so successful is just a huge testament within itself, and I think that's the biggest part of it.
And also being a woman of color, might I say, is, I'm in a very affluent community. And when the people would come in and say, oh, can I speak to the owner? Now, you don't see very many Black flower shops.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, I'm Sharon. They're like, oh, a little skeptical, talking, and bring them in. They're like, wow, okay. So being a Black woman, being confident in yourself, and going after what you want, and not being afraid to sell and know your stuff, it gets you in the door for sure, for sure. Ooh.
So wonderful. And we're wrapping up now. I'm sure you're super busy. And just a plug for what Torrey mentioned, you said that you have other Black women business owners in your family. If they're local, we have a nomination form now that people can fill out. If there are any Black women business owners in the South Coast that they'd like us to interview on one of our upcoming episodes, we would love to feature them. And so for my last question or comment is just, how do people get in touch with you? I know the holidays are coming up. I'm sure you're getting booked and busy, but where can people find you if they want to hire you for any type of product or flower arrangement? How can they find you and get in touch?
Well, as I said, we're 454 Wareham Street in Marion, Mass, right on Route 6. Love to meet new clients. On the 4th and the 5th of December, our big open house, which is catered. And people of color love to give a good party, and it's all about the food. We have a great caterer. We have a new bakery. Well, for me, the Nook will be here giving away her eats and treats. I also have a new local artisan, jewelry. Come on down. You mentioned this ad, I'll give you 10% off as a new client, and everybody gets a gift. And I always give my best. If you have any suggestions of any places or new entrepreneurs in the area, I'd love to market them and show them what we have. It would be a pleasure to get more into the Black community. I've done a lot recently, but there's always room for more new challenges, new growth, new design. And we're here. You can see us on Facebook. You can see us on our Instagram. We're always doing something.
Yeah, wonderful.
For you all to come down. It's really a really, really nice show. It's a winter wonderland inside and outside. You can't beat.
And what's the date and time on that again?
The date is December 4th and 5th this year. We're doing it for 2 years.
Great.
We packed the house.
2 days.
We're doing it for 2 days this year. We usually get a great overflow from 100, 125 people.
Wow.
And they know what we have. You better come in and get it because it will be gone.
Don't want to miss out.
Oh no, and we have a great assortment of different giftware this year, really. And we have something for $5 to $10 teacher gifts, petite fours. We have beautiful water globes that we sell out of. We sold out, I think last year, over 100.
Wow.
Silver and gold. Price point is excellent. Just anything for your gift giving. We have some great stuff.
Awesome. Well, thanks again. Make sure to check out Always in Bloom December 4th and 5th and any other day right up in Marion. Sharon and Torrey, thank you so much for your time. It was really great to get to know more about Always in Bloom, about your story. And I'm sure this is not going to be the last time we see you. So we really appreciate your time.
Well, we appreciate you and what you're doing to bringing the businesses together and letting us be known out there, we work hard. So it's our pleasure to be able to highlight all the hard work you do. So thank you again. And we're going to bring Justina back for our closing.
So in closing, we want to thank each of the women who took their time to be with us tonight, who opened up about their business journeys and their experiences and joined in on our Herstory series, and to our audience for being with us tonight and supporting and listening to Black women. The South Coast region hosts many programs that address the issues of inequities among the large, diverse populations. However, most of these programs are not led by people of color, therefore creating a disconnect to the experiences and resources that are actually needed. The lack of representation results in a lack of trust, lack of awareness, and lack of opportunity.
The South Coast is in need of adequate representation for small businesses as a means to combat the growing income inequality in our region. Entrepreneurship creates a pathway out of unemployment, underemployment, poverty, and increases the quality of life by improving the economic status of the region. And I think that with us, we're happy to be able to share just a little bit of light on this and to do a small part in uplifting the businesses that are created, to share the stories of these women who have worked so hard to get where they are, and that hopefully someone listening is inspired and is able to create a pathway to the same type of entrepreneurship.
That's such a good point. And now at our 7th episode, we've highlighted over 30 businesses, including our own. We are each part of local organizations and businesses that are run by people of color. So I'm really excited for the opportunity to continue this series into the new year, into 2022, and there's more to come. So we hope that you'll hit subscribe on that YouTube button, hit subscribe so that you can be in the know about all of our upcoming events.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for joining us, and have a great evening.